It's freezing out. Do you want to talk about something morbid? I ran out of space. You get the gist of it, though. Okay, so when we're talking about the eruption of Vesuvius, we have to establish first when it happened. August the 24th, 79 CE. Yes, that's the traditional date, but I mean, it only happened once, and that's the date Pliny the Younger wrote. Yes, Pliny the Younger did write that it happened the 24th of August, 79 CE. However, he wrote that date about 30 years later when he was writing 2 letters to a friend of his, the historian Tacitus, who was wanting to write a big historical thing in Rome at the time. However, again, that's 30 years later. We do have some archaeological evidence that suggests it might have happened later in the year, but the traditional date, and the date most of us know for the eruption of Vesuvius, is the 24th of August, 79 CE. So, when it comes to establishing a timeline for the eruption of Mt Vesuvius, we have to start 17 years prior to the eruption in 79 CE. I thought we were talking about people dying from the eruption. Okay, I'm getting there. We'll get to people dying in a moment, alright? Oh, okay, I'll be quiet. Gosh. Okay, so, 62 CE. The 5th of February marks a date for a devastating earthquake to shake the region, one that Pompeii was still rebuilding from 17 years later. Now, after this earthquake, springs and wells dried up, and there were tremors that shook the region for the next 17 years, both of which are things that we might see as precursor events to a larger geological event taking place, but at the time, people just rebuilt their lives. They took catalog of what was destroyed and kept on going. Now, when it comes to the eruption itself, we have a singular, one singular, first-hand account of the eruption. That comes from Pliny the Younger. Him, his mother, and his uncle, Pliny the Elder, were all at the town of Misenum with the Roman navy, which is about 30 kilometers away from Mt Vesuvius in the Bay of Naples. Oh, across the Bay of Naples. Now, his mother said to have saw the eruption cloud itself coming off of the mountain around lunchtime, but again, they're about 30 kilometers away. It is entirely possible that the people of Herculaneum, which was 7 kilometers from Mt Vesuvius, Pompeii, which is about 10, and Stabiae and Oplontis, which are in the same geographic distance, give or take, as Pompeii, saw the cloud much earlier. But again, we're going to say that the eruption timeline began somewhere between, say, 10, 11, and lunchtime, so 12, 1 o'clock. When it comes to deaths from the eruption, we've got 2 types. And, baby doll, neither of them are nice. Strap in. Okay, so, welcome to episode 1 of Loki Talks About a Rather Horrifying Death. In this case, welcome to the eruption of Mt Vesuvius. So, weight is going to be used as an all-encompassing term for the purposes of this. When it comes to that first phase of the eruption, the first things to be ejected from the volcano are the pumice stones and the ash. Now, pumice on its own is rather light, however, when mixed with other volcanic material that's being ejected, it becomes quite heavy, and the projectiles could have easily taken people out if they were hit by the pumice stones and anything else being ejected from the mountain. Therefore, that's the first of our Pompeii victims, is being taken out by rocks and whatnot being thrown from the eruption itself. Now, ash, again, is quite light on its own, however, it accumulates very quickly and it's going to overwhelm whatever structure it hits. Many people in Pompeii tried to shelter in their homes. People in Herculaneum as well also tried to shelter. That was, if you weren't running actively out of wherever you were living, you were trying to take shelter. The ash itself accumulated very quickly and overtook the structures. Roofs collapsed. The ash just kept going. Okay, there's not much you can do for it at that point. There's the second of our devastating weight-related deaths, is the collapse from the ash and everything else. It's just gonna get worse from here, just so you're aware of this. The third of these weight-related things is going to be related to the ash again. Now, we don't know the names of every single victim of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. For context here, Herculaneum had a population of between 4,000 and 5,000, whereas Pompeii had an estimated somewhere between 10 and 20,000, with a good guess being put at between 12 and 15,000. But we have nowhere near that many people that are being found at the sites themselves. So a good portion of the population did escape from the eruption itself. But the ash is still in the air for those who didn't escape. Now, one of the more famous individuals that we do know the name of that was killed during the eruption itself was Pliny the Elder, who was with his nephew, Pliny the Younger, and his sister, Pliny's mother, in Misenum. He eventually traveled to the city of Stabii, which is close to Pompeii, where the ash did its thing and accumulated in his lungs, and well, when you have that much ash in your lungs, you can't really breathe. This is called asphyxiation. All of those are going to be weight related. Okay. There's a number of different deaths that could have occurred during the eruption itself. Arguably, those are the less horrifying ones. Okay, so when it comes to the heat deaths from the eruption, the insanity of them is kind of difficult to comprehend, but bear with me here, okay? There's 6, possibly 7 pyroclastic flows that came off of the volcano during the eruption. If you have no idea what that is, it is a cloud of supercharged, superheated volcanic gas, debris, pretty much anything else that's just billowing down the side of the volcano at like breakneck speeds. Like, these are so fucking fast, and they smell foul. Like, the worst rotten eggs you can think of is what these damn things smell like. Not that I've ever smelled one, I don't want to, but that's what I've been told they smell like. So, just imagine that. Anyway, the first 3 of these pyroclastic flows hits Herculaneum, and the 4, 5, 6, possibly 7 are the ones that hit the area that has Pompeii, Stabii, and Aplantis in it. Now, in these areas, temperatures rose to anywhere between 300 and 500 degrees Celsius. And if you use imperial measurements like I usually do, just know that is a royal fuck ton when it comes to looking at the thermometer reading. Alright? We don't need to know the exact measurement because you're not going to survive it anyway. That is a crazy number to think of. Alright? Moving on. In the 1980s, while excavating Herculaneum, archaeologists came across 12 waterfront chambers referred to as the boat sheds. Now, in these boat sheds, as they're excavating, they uncovered the skeletonized remains of 300 individuals that all displayed thermal injury to them. This thermal injury varied from distal region to proximal, but thermal injury nonetheless. Now, these individuals went through something called filament shock, which means that the vital activities of the muscles stopped before a conscious reaction could be had. Now, they also displayed some form of pugilistic attitude like the remains in Pompeii. However, in Pompeii, with what we've seen of the casts, it looks like a majority of the body went through pugilistic attitude. It is something that happens post-mortem. However, that was not the same with the people that were found in the boat sheds of Herculaneum. They only went through partial pugilistic attitude, which, horrifyingly enough, suggests that, the muscles were being replaced by ash quicker than they could contract. So they're being vaporized. Yeah, just sit with that for a second. These individuals were vaporized. Researchers have hypothesized that not only was the soft tissue of these individuals vaporized, the bodily fluids were as well, citing evidence of ash being caked on the inside of their skulls before they exploded. Do I need to say that again? They theorized that not only from the heat did the soft tissue vaporize, but the bodily fluids did as well, because there was ash caked inside their skulls, and then the skulls exploded afterwards. And I quote, "The presence of such an ash cast in all victims, even those showing minor heat effects, provides evidence that the S1 surge was sufficiently hot and fluid enough to penetrate the inner cranial cavity soon after the soft tissues and organic fluids disappeared." Yeah, that's a thing. Sometimes I forget that Mother Nature is terrifying. And then I remember that Herculaneum and Pompeii and Stabii and Atlantis were just wiped off the map. Yeah.